I want to acknowledge that there are so many important people here tonight to me that have been a part of my journey in art and poetry, and I wouldn't be here without so many of you, and I really, really appreciate that and this moment. So I also wanted to, I'm reading a little bit from the novella because of what's happening here at what's happening here tonight, this being the last reading in this space as we know it for now. In my novella, there are moments that I call apparitions, where the character, me, the protagonist, is, or the antagonist, I can't tell sometimes. She kind of has experiences where she, moments of aesthetic arrest, where she comes to face with art or an artist, and it just has this awakening effect, or it triggers a deep reflection of seeing herself in a way she never did before. And so I'm going to start with those. Apparition 1, Espiritu Rodolfo. Ocotlan on market day. Braided women laugh with turkeys slung upside down over their wrists, like Sunday purses. A goat on a bus roof eating the contents of a basket. El Grupo spills from a bus like a swarm from a hive. Saccharine and sunscreen scented, mosquito constellated bodies shuffling in sporty sandals. She drifts behind, chatty, bouncing around in layered epochs of time. Time for her a matter of fact. Behave, be on time, one-dimensional tick-tock time. Rodolfo and his 7 faceless ghosts are home that day, when unannounced and adrift, some of them senseless peer through his wrought iron gate. He greets them as if on time, empty-handed, escorts them through his elephant ear courtyard, standing like her grandfather upright after a day of plastering, but Iceland and shoulders gentle as Uncle Frank. Through wide corridors, he permits El Grupito to stall and snoop at every open door, even pauses in silence at his personal favorites, such as his yolk-colored kitchen, an ode to ollas and jarritos sprawling above a checkerboard of cobalt and maize black backsplash tiles. Somewhere, a painting contains a blacked-out pretzel shape of a girl. Marietta, no seas coqueta. She's in a taffy pink dress and baby doll shoes, sitting cross-legged with bowling pin calves on a Mexican flag. Red, white, blue ribbon around her hair. Deliberate mounds suggest she is more than a child. Her fingers, black forks, pitched against the soft topography of her bubblegum dress. Rodolfo, you let us in. Outside your gate, we are beige with dusty shoes. We enter your house. I am dreaming everywhere, up the stairs, past pre-Columbian faces, peeking out from lime and plaster in your rooftop studio. Relic faces I could not bring myself to barter for with souvenir vendors grazing Monte Alban, where I took photos of young goats instead. I want to be a quiet man like you, Rodolfo, hosting fiestas of spirits and small dogs near pigmented etheric walls, to crawl out from under synthetic sofa cushions and a static cling past life. Painting other worlds alone on a rooftop as rain clouds darken and drench down, with kindness and unknowing. Rodolfo, I packed all the wrong things for this passage. Nothing in my suitcase or the marketplace can tell me yet my name. In a landscape where the living exhale the dead, Rodolfo, I grew up on oatmeal packets and macaroni and cheese and buttered tortillas. I'm to be a lace-wrapped bride by late summer, but I'm still a hidden palette. I say I am a simple girl, but look at your pink ghost, Rodolfo. She knows that my moods are dormant, emerging like mushrooms where showers and shadows have surprised each other, fantastic and edible, poisonous and intoxicating, some difficult to distinguish. I think she sees it, and she breathes me, exhales me, and for just a few breaths, my eyes open, no time. I am a cobalt-spirited woman child in your elephant ear garden, in your peso y panzón pots, in your boneless gingerbread figures who picnic against ultrachromatic plazas. No, I have no questions for the artist. Is it loud enough? Okay. Where's John? Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Putting out my ears, thank you.
Okay. This one is makes reference to a giant tree, a 2,000-year-old tree called the Árbol de Tule in Oaxaca, and the circumference of that tree is probably about as big as the room, the trunk, and has amazing animal shapes in it. It's really a fascinating tree. Apparition 4, Holy Toledo. Francisco Toledo is an insect, a praying mantis, holding nothing up his sleeve, pollinating his front porch galaxy with visions. Or no, rather an árbol de tule, a man with animal formations in his primordial locks of hair. He turns the corner with his hands clasped behind his back. His shadow illuminates. I see my slightness, my distraction, my ignorance, my rootlessness dreaming of great fruit. I am a flea on the spine of time. Get old, hums his shadow, an unseen dust veil dragging behind him in cobblestone with soda bags and straws beneath. Get old, ancient and patient, get used to oblivion. Black and white, or no, sepia, Toledo. Youth and storytelling corral my thoughts. He is water running under my fences, a cave and a manger and a star shining on a camel's back. He echoes night to create brighter contrast each day. I'm a tumbleweed and he is Tule. No, I have no questions for the artist. Apparition 5, Cielo Velasco. This one also has a tree in it, but it's actually a very giant cactus, it's a candelabra cactus that in this painting it looks about 5 stories big with a small man with a sombrero standing in the shade of it and looking out into a vast space with no buildings or anything but clouds and hills. Apparition 5. Cielo Velasco. Estoy fallando, Velasco, and you are ether, jet fuel, a riddle. Did I love your painting or did it love me first? Did I love more him or the place? I belong to neither. Oh, take me home and show me where home is. Where I go, we say there is an elephant in the room, but instead I've your candelabra in my suitcase, in my carry-on, a country, a village in my crevice. Not surreal, but something close to it. I took him homeopathically, like mauve dirt, followed him like a Quixote, saw his windmills as giants, unleashed my follies in his shadow, making love, then feasting on grasshoppers and Pepsi, after rain bursts in his backbone streets. His shadow spreading with the setting sun, its fingers following me home, yes, and I let them, and my form lose her formality. I don't fit the same way in my body. What's love, Velasco? And where is that portal where a self can her full self be, her honest questions expose, and shame not be the toll? Oh, take me home, Velasco, crude, unrefined, feo. I don't know how this will land. This last piece is a 5-piece poem. And I wrote it because Phil said we should never talk about death in poetry. He said, don't you dare talk about death in this room. So in March, my dog died. And this piece is, my dog isn't the only thing that died. This March was surreal with colors and spring and the result of so many fires bursting forward. And a lot of people around me experienced a lot of loss. So that's a very interesting, kind of a psychedelic mix sometimes. So I'll launch right in to the field. There are a few epigraphs in the different parts. Tragedy is a theater of sacrifice in the true sense. Violence occurs. Through violence, we are intimate with some characters on stage in an exorbitant way for a brief time. That's all it is. Anne Carson. 1. Rule number 1. The moment always overrides everything. David Hockney. If you're feeling turned on, Hockney says, keep going. You're on a roll, really, and they don't last forever. He wasn't painting when he said it, that art should be about joy. Does he really believe that? The man's a chain-smoking triumph. There are no dubious underpaintings to his assertions, like about the camera being a paralyzed cyclops. though that Cyclops often is his megaphone. But what's a contradiction? Just olive and chartreuse, and even these go together, frankly. In Oriental art, you don't see vanishing points, you don't see shadows, and that's how we see, in time, the eyes constantly moving. He mentions also the loss of his dog, crying nonstop for 2 days with his housekeeper. Triumph's underbelly, the damn cherry on top after the AIDS sweep. Emptiness and loss driving him back over umbilical roads. A bigger picture grows from his fields of origin. He's chain-smoking his shire, exhaling fauve replicas, same size as my house, confronting relentless elements, light, loss, emptiness, the moment. Pictures make us look at the world, he puffs. It's a dreary March day. Tonight we'll set the clocks ahead, still manipulating that malleable hour, as though advancing a plastic dial could shorten a night or lengthen a day. The moment, I yawn, thinking I've been on such a roll lately. But Hackney is a locomotive. His fauvised lens, nearly kaleidoscopic, adjusts my gaze. Black and white disappear as I harness 2 squirrely dogs. The nearby field today is denser, mustard rising in a high-pitched sulfur hue. A modest urban reef beneath a darkening orchid sky. We become soft shapes of light and color roving the Shire. 2. A tender man holds my hand. After the small bridge, I let the dogs free, as is our habit. We talk about the field and Monet's haystacks, Hackney's tunnel. Part of the field belongs to a cluster of eucalyptus. Their limbs litter the area with bark scrolls. A man I know as Michael, can't recall how, rolls smokes there, sits for hours like the Buddha. Maybe he is, my man decides. Anyway, it's a part of us, this field. A marker of daylight, a black hole at midnight, a husk in summer, an earnest sprout after the first rain, and each spring, this. We see it now, how the pepper tree at the corner tunnels the path. Look at the world, make us a picture. I fix it in my memory. We always see with memory, Hackney said. Didn't he? That 2 people never look at the same thing. But we agree, some kind of passage. It frames where the street intersects with the path, like a focal point or a little stage. That little stage is where we are crossing back over. Is it only 10 minutes later? I cannot say. Time stops. We become Cyclops, paralyzed, void of reason. Dusk. What is the color of dusk? It takes months sometimes to get a color right. But I still hear it, the sound of chaos in slow motion. Stop, I say, but he plays and skirts behind me into the street as I'm squat and leashing the other. The increasing throb of muffled speakers advancing behind blooming incandescence, my body flung upward toward my arms hissing stop, my man shouting no, get out of the street. A playful face fixed on my retreat. He'd learned so well never to play this game, still playing, his gait a prance, his breath a bright light, the sound of a vehicle gasping. hum of chaos idles in shell shock, kaleidoscopic constellation of accident, men making sounds, my arms hissing stop because I can hear it, the black hole at midnight. He's gone. He shall not want. No more. It's a quick shard and also a fear relieved. They go together, frankly. Black and white have disappeared. The gash is expert. I do not deny the hand auspicious, want to thank the agent, but he wails, pleading, with palms touching, what can he do? His gospel perpendicular to mine. Nothing. I bear you no ill will. Reaching helpless towards that orchid sky, he embraces me, kisses my forehead, repeat, and I repeat my lines to him and to my audience of pure and piercing silence. What is this life? I ask a scoop of wilted flesh, ask the crystalline moment which has overridden everything. I cannot lift my head. The path is darkening and unforeseeable. I'd give a breast to hear him breathe. Instead, the stained glass composition of my purpose loses its lead, that roll I'd been on, shattering to bits. Suspended in a gelatinous spin, there's no vanishing point, no shadows. I place Boo in the field that night, that void in the city grid, a good place to watch stars fall. I thatch cords of mustard over him, return to sit in the whalebone arc of a black oak, chill fuzzy moon a pendulum above the fuss and screech of something wild nearby. The field hums me to sleep toward visions of neon animals grazing. I dream of Chumash figures and land covered in terracotta, waving and bending, playing flutes and feathers, a sign language that belongs more to this place than I. 3. Life is a dream, death the end of that dream, and the beginning of the next. Attachment to form is suffering, but the spirit endures forever. Baba Hari Das. She arises from her dream to the ache of her missing appendage, the sibling withdrawn. Attachment rules. A cord pulls her back towards his form, back to the field. Michael already established like a tree stump, rolling his cigarette. This is the waking dream, where she's ever a tenant in a world littered and lost in electronic devices, moving high speed, head down. A man watching the field through his cyclops. A man is watching the field through his cyclops, yells, "Turkey vultures!" excitedly over his shoulder. Passers-by pause, cringe, and resume their conversation. She hadn't anticipated vultures. Coyote, coon, and foxes, so prevalent. Her pace quickens against fear, wading through a soft current of mustard toward 5 vultures who one by one lift and hover, permitting her to inspect their meal, their work. Swoosh of jet wingspan, a sovereign blessing beneath a noon lamp. Only a blush ribbon has slipped out from the fine gash. Otherwise, they've delayed dismantling his form. There's an art to it, a delicate quest within each vehicle, "We've got this," the wings wisp, ushering her to rise and leave them to their task. Sharp glint of feathers, a curtain descending as she wades back through billows of cadmium down the tunnel's cacophony of light and spring. 4. The Hockney lens still lends itself. She does cry for 2 days straight, and the days do seem longer. Everywhere she walks is a tunnel, a hyperblossom intestinal highway. All that sulfur yellow must push itself up from someplace. What is this life? She asks her wilted will. Asks this redundant first world dream chase. Butterfly migration, meanwhile, prancing about her pacing car. There's a tenderness that happens when witnessing violence, and they go together, frankly. She knows to let go the violence, but the tenderness. All too soon it can happen. The needle gets pulled back again, and the days contract against what the expanded heart knows. 5. What the people need to understand is this, Agnes Varda. Because unleashed, a pure accident breaks the heart open. Love and beauty and death are one. Because asking what matters is the sound of a between breath, art is what we make of it. Because the colors are light, but the weight beneath them heavy, art takes courage. Because sulfur breaks open and fades into a trail of smoke, love your life and you lose it. Because life and death break each other's rules, lose your life and you find it. Because the world we love arises from and returns to this one, from the void in the grid, from the sound of stars falling, from the black hole at midnight. What the people need to understand is this.